Welcome to the Base Path Podcast, brought to you by New England Baseball Journal. I'm your host, Dan Guttenplan. Today's guest is the reigning ISL Coach of the Year, ISL Champion Coach, Matt Duffy. Matt, thank you so much for taking the time.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm psyched to, we're previewing now the prep baseball season. I'm psyched that it's right around the corner, where spring is here, starting to warm up. How are you feeling now? I know last year was your first year as head coach at St. Sebastian's. You had been there a couple of years as an assistant. How are you settling in now in your second year? How is it different than the first year?
It's been great. Last year was awesome. At St. Sebastian's, we have a teacher-coach model. So meaning you have to be a member of the faculty to be a head coach here. So last year I took a job in the athletic department, and first year went well. Obviously we had a great season. To be back at, place that I went to school is awesome. Was super excited, and obviously winning it was the cherry on top last year. But so, great to be back again this year in the same role, and I'm looking forward to the season. We actually start tryouts today, so I'm really excited.
Nice. Yeah, I was looking back over last season, and it was, I think the St. Sebastian's was coming off a 9-11 season. And then you guys went 10-1 in the regular season in the ISL, and then it was the first year of that postseason tournament. You guys ran through that. The championship game, which I remember we spoke afterwards, you had Lawrence Academy and John Payon, who's, he was the ISL Pitcher of the Year last year, and you guys kind of matched up with them. What do you attribute that kind of turnaround to go from 9-11 to be so dominant last year in the league? And you had graduated a couple guys, too, that went on to play Division I baseball as pitchers. Hagen Ward, I think, Jack Volo. What do you attribute that success to from last year?
I think the guys came together. I think the year before the returning players knew that we kind of let it slip away, and they came in ready to go. I think we kept it really simple. We threw strikes, and we picked up the ball on defense and kept it simple. We had some timely hitting, but I think on paper we were a talented team that year before at 9-11. The boys were hungry, and like I said, I'm repeating myself, but we pitched and we played defense, and we were just tough outs. We ran the base as well, did the little things right, and obviously you need a little bit of luck involved. The ball bounced our way a few times. It's such a tough league, and we got hot, and then it's, a game of momentum at that point. So it was a really fun ride.
Yeah, one thing that really nobody saw coming last year was Gavin Wainwright, who ended up, I think he was the ISL Player of the Year, or, he won one of those big-time awards as a freshman, and he also was dominant in the tournament, or in the playoff tournament. He was on the mound for the championship game, matched up with John Payon, as I just said. He outpitched him. You always hear from coaches that, you can't win in the ISL with freshmen. You need experience. You need seniors. You need guys who have been through a D1 commits, all that stuff. Did you ever think, hey, I can't put him on the mound? Because I know he didn't even pitch that much with NEB going into last season. He was kind of more of an infielder hitter type. What led you to believe that, he could have that type of success on the mound?
Watching him in tryouts and at captain's practices, as I would watch from the outside, he was just a strike thrower. Nothing crazy overpowering, but keeps it really simple, and he throws 3 pitches for strikes. And as a former hitter, I know how hard that is to hit. And, in my mind, I said, Gav, you're going to go out there, no expectations as a young guy, but I think you're going to have success if you really mix. And he was just so unpredictable, pitch backwards at times, and then at times go right at guys. So he got off to a great start. I think that always helps. And then obviously with that comes confidence, and we just kind of rode his coattails. And behind the plate, we have Brett Gallo, who's a Northeastern commit. They've played together in the summer. They're a good 1-2 punch. They're on the same page always. So the two of them really took it and ran with it. But ultimately Gavin's command, you know what I mean? He can just, like I said, throw 3 pitches at any time. And when base runners are on, he controls the run game super well. Great with holds. He picked off probably 6-7 guys as a righty. Just a phenomenal feel for the game and what's going on around him.
Yeah, and he might end up having that type of velocity like John Payon, but he didn't have it last year. And, so the mix in the pitches, I think, was probably what really helped, but it's hard for a freshman to have that conviction. Was that Brett calling pitches, or do you call pitches from the dugout, or how do you kind of work that battery?
Yeah, it's the both of us. The three of us get together, come in with a loose game plan. As a coach, I'm right there. I call a lot of the game. I don't want to completely take it away from Brett, but I think Brett, I can learn a lot from Brett, and he can learn a lot from me. And I think this year I'll give him a little more leeway. Um, but I think the year before when I was assistant, I kind of stayed away from calling pitches. And um, before the season started this year, I told myself that I would kind of be a little more hands-on with that, as much as I didn't want to.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big believer in these guys, especially Brett, who's going to go on to play Division I baseball, going through the ups and downs, but the competitive side of me kind of takes over sometimes. And I kind of jumped in a little bit last year, but Brett's phenomenal back there. We're so lucky to have him. Obviously, the catching position at high school, I'm probably an exaggeration, but I don't know if he let up more than 2 or 3 pass balls last year. So it goes such a long way in the season, not giving up those extra bases. Gavin has the, with 2 strikes, he can spike a curveball, throw a change up, because he knows Brett's back there and he's gonna keep it in front of him.
Yeah, I actually saw Brett a few weeks ago. I was down at Jason Aguiar's gym. He's a Northeastern strength coach, and he's kind of working with guys, at the high school level, at college level, and even some pro guys. What is it? What is your approach to strength training in the off season? Are you kind of letting your guys, go off to different places to do it? Do you have a program, or what do you kind of recommend for your players?
Yeah, nowadays I feel like all these great gyms are popping up. There's so many guys in that industry that do such a good job. So a lot of them have their own gyms that they go to. At St. Seb's, we have a great strength and conditioning program here. So I know it's probably split down the middle. Some guys are really comfortable going elsewhere, and then some guys lift here. It was a huge help in my career when I was playing after college, when I really dialed in to the strength training. So I try to stress that to the guys. Often that can be the separator from maybe being a D3 player to a D1 player, the physicality. So I'm always pushing them. At the end of the day, if they want it, they're gonna do it on their own. But we don't have like a mandatory program here that they have to do. You know what I mean? I think they know how important it is, and they seek that out on their own.
Yeah, that's interesting that you didn't dive into it or consider it a huge part of your training until after college. Because now, like you said, guys are getting into it 14, 15 years old and really kind of embracing it. And the recruiting must be so much different now, than it was back when you started at University of Vermont, and then ended up at University of Tennessee as a transfer. I don't know. Was that because Vermont cut their program?
It was, yeah. So my sophomore year, about 3 weeks before the season, I think we were headed to Vanderbilt to open up, and our coach had told us that this would be the final season. So quite a shock. Worked out for some guys. Some guys were able to leapfrog to bigger and better things, and it was kind of a bummer for the juniors because a lot of those schools weren't going to take a 1-year rental. So for me, it worked out, and it was you didn't have to sit out for a year because it was such a unique situation with the program being cut. Yeah, I was very fortunate to land where I did, and kind of get that experience of playing in the SEC.
Yeah, that's not a lot of people, back when you were in college had that experience of being able to transfer kind of up to an SEC school without having to do that redshirt season. What do you think about the state of the college game now with, obviously nobody has to redshirt anymore when you transfer, and it's kind of a little bit more like free agency almost.
Yeah, it's definitely crazy. It's a lot different. I try to stay in touch with some of these guys that have left Sebs. And to use an example, Jack Toomey was at Holy Cross. He came out of St. Sebastian's. I'd worked with Jack for a few years, and now he's over at BC. So he's it's funny, in the past you used to have to sit out a year. It seemed like you had to jump through a lot of go through a longer process to make this happen. And now it seems like you said, perfect example, free agency. At the end of your college season, everyone's a free agent. So I think the rich get richer in that regard. And sometimes the smaller schools, you have a player that comes there, goes off, and start the recruiting process all over for them. So I think it's good and bad. It's different, but I don't think, I think, like I said, these big schools are going to go gobble up players that put up great seasons at smaller mid-major schools. And, it's going to help grow the top level teams. And it just makes it that much more competitive. And when you go through the recruiting process now, all these kids, they want to play Division I baseball. That's a goal they've set. That's a dream they're chasing. And it's just that much harder. And maybe the path now is to go to a D3 school. And I'm always telling guys, you got to be on the field. You want to be on the field wherever you go. And then you can kind of create your own path if you put up some numbers. So it's different and unique, but we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, I know you're a former Sebs player, ISL Player of the Year yourself. You were the class of 2007, where you were ISL MVP. What do you think that experience does for you in terms of recruiting guys to St. Sebastian's? Is it, that pride in the school and, being an alumnus?
Yeah, I love this place. I came here as a 7th grader, had an awesome experience. When my baseball career was over, I had planned just to come back and wanted to be around the guys, lend a hand, throw BP, work with hitters, work with infielders. And here we are now, I'm the head coach. But I love this place, and there's probably not another school I would have coached at. I didn't really have a plan to jump back into the high school coaching. But it's great when kids come and visit the school at athletic open nights. I present on baseball, and it's an easy pitch for me because I'm so biased. Having gone here, I tell everyone it's the greatest place, and I love it. So super happy to be back. And we have a great history of athletics at St. Seb's, all sports. So it's really not a hard pitch. Academically, it's a great school, and if it's the right fit, I tell all kids they should apply here.
Yeah. You said you didn't think you'd be coaching, maybe at all, or especially at St. Seb's after your playing career was over. What did you think you'd be doing?
I don't know. I wanted to stay in baseball. I have a passion for training guys and working with them on the hitting side, fielding side, whatever it is. And I really like working with individual players. I didn't know how I would be, if I would be a good coach. I was so used to playing, and was so wrapped up in, taking care of my own role as a player. I didn't know how much went into it, managing the personalities, managing the kids' emotions. But it was great. Last year was awesome. I think I learned a lot, and seeing it through a different lens was quite eye-opening.
Yeah. Did you have a moment, like sometimes, and much smaller scale, but I've coached my kids' sports teams before where, it kind of clicks all of a sudden. You're like, hey, I'm pretty good at this. Did you have a moment, or have you had a moment, maybe it was when you were an assistant, or, maybe just right at the end of your playing career where you said, like, hey, this is what I meant to do?
Yeah, I don't know if there was a particular moment. I think when I talk to guys that have left and moved on from St. Seb's, and can relate to them, and they can give me feedback on what they appreciated about my style of coaching. That's nice to hear, and that can kind of keep you going, where you can impact a kid in a positive way. And more so outside of baseball, just be there for them, someone to lean on for them. I know how hard the game is, so to be able to pick guys up, you have to have good feel for knowing when this guy's down or when a kid needs a kick in the butt. So I think from a relationship standpoint, I think that's the most important part of coaching at this level, having an understanding of where these kids are off the field as well. It's high school baseball at the end of the day. So, being a support system for them and being a mentor and helping them in any way has been rewarding.
Yeah, I know. So you are also entrenched in the travel ball scene throughout the summer. You have your own baseball academy here in Milton, Massachusetts. And I know that's a lot different. That kind of, a lot of kids are getting recruited that way now in the summer at some of these showcase events, and even some of the stuff that goes on at NEBC in New England. And a lot of the recruiting happens outside of the high school and prep season now. How is that? How have you adjusted to that? And how is it different from, when you graduated back in 2007 and your recruiting experience?
Yeah. The travel ball scene was just starting to really come on when I was maybe the sophomore, junior, senior in high school. I played Legion ball in the town of Milton, and the Perfect Game showcases were kind of the way to get seen. So it's a lot different now. There's tournaments every weekend, and these parents are traveling all over the country, and it can be, from the outside looking in, I can imagine it's super stressful, and it's hard. But I try to take a little bit of a different approach. And we give these kids a platform to go play, and I nudge them to go to these college camps and stuff like that. And Brendan Morrissey, the coach at Milton Academy, a good friend of mine, he's fantastic. He does a lot of the recruiting stuff with the Knights program. He has so many of the connections with the college coaches and stuff like that. But we try to place the guys with the right fit. You know what I mean? We try to sit down and say, okay, academically, what's going to be the right fit for you, and then how do we use your academic record to get you into a school where baseball, you can continue your career. So it's a lot. It can be stressful for the parents, the kids, and there's nothing better when they finally find that right fit.
Yeah. How do you approach the coaching different between high school and with the travel ball? I know I've heard coaches say, travel ball is a little bit more individual based, where, you want guys to kind of showcase their school skills for recruiters, whereas high school prep, all about winning.
Yeah, I think there's definitely more of an emphasis on winning at the high school level. Like I said, in the summer, it's a lot more laid back. It's definitely more individual. I mean, these guys are, we're just, like I said, trying to give them a platform to go out there and showcase themselves. So it's which is good. You know what I mean? If you lose a summer baseball game, it's not the end of the world by any means. And there is more of an emphasis on trying to win at the high school level. Yeah, and it's turned into a showcase world. You know what I mean? And I think that's different from when I was coming up. It was definitely more of a team concept through Legion ball and stuff like that. But not for better or worse. I think it's great for these kids. They put a lot of time and energy into it. Their parents put in a ton of time and energy. And like I said, it's great when they do find that right fit. And it's hard. These college coaches can't be everywhere at once. So, you end up playing a lot of baseball to get in front of these guys week in and week out.
Yeah. As you take a look at the complexion of the ISL here heading into the 2025 season, we've been previewing all of the prep school conferences, on our website over the last couple of months. It looks like, obviously the prep school scene is so loaded now with talent. Are there teams that are that you're imagining will be at the top of the standings this year, teams to beat, or player? It looks like Lawrence Academy has another ace this year that they got as a transfer. So maybe, they'd be one of the teams. And like you said, Brendan Morrissey, two-time MIA state champion head coach. I would imagine Milton Academy will be in the mix as well. What are the teams that you're kind of looking forward to playing this year?
I mean, yeah, the ISL is such a great league. It's a battle every Wednesday. We play Wednesdays and Saturdays, and I feel like every school has a pitcher or two that's really strong. So, I feel like anyone can win on any given day. I liken it to college football, where it's like, if you lose 2 in a row, sometimes you sit there and it's like, well, the season's so short. We out of this thing. That's why it was great when they added the playoffs. But like you had mentioned, Lawrence is going to be fantastic again. Belmont Hill, Milton Academy, Roxbury Latin, I think, is going to be a great team. I'm sure I'm leaving a few out, but yeah, there's just so much talent in the league. Pitcher can go out there, you can blink, and it's the 6th inning, and he has a shutout. You play quick 7-inning games, and next thing you know, you could drop a game to a team that maybe you were supposed to beat on paper. So I think that was us last year. We snuck up on a lot of teams, and I'm sure there'll be a few teams like us this year that come out and get on a run, and anything can happen.
Yeah. I want to go back to your playing career because you are one of the few New Englanders who have had the opportunity to play in the big leagues. When you were coming out of when you were coming out of St. Sebastian's, you ended up at UVM. What was what were your options, and what made you decide to pick Vermont?
Yeah, I was play like I'm repeating myself, but I was playing Legion ball, and it was good, good competition at the time. And we made the state tournament, and that was there were some coaches there, and I had done a few of the showcases. And the schools, like most kids around this area, BC is always on your radar. It's the local school they play in a great league. I had aspirations to play at BC's of the world, Northeastern. I didn't have the grades to play at any of the Ivy League schools or stuff like that. But Vermont had seen me play. I really liked the coach. We had a great connection. Without telling me completely up front that I would be a starter my freshman year, he sort of alluded to that. And when I went up there on my visit, I had never been to the state of Vermont before. I had no intentions. I remember arguing with my dad, there's no way I'm going to go here. And I had a great trip, and I liked it. And the coaches were awesome, and the guys on the team were awesome. And I, talked to my dad, and I said, well, maybe this will be a great fit. And I know he was nudging me, because I think he had a hunch that I was going to get on the field right away with an opportunity to start, which ended up happening. And it was one of the better decisions I've made to head there.
Yeah. Burlington's a great city.
It was.
What was your draft experience like? Because obviously you transferred to Tennessee, you're getting probably a lot more exposure once you got down there in the SEC. What was your draft experience like?
Yeah, so I went down to Tennessee. So my junior year, I had a solid year, and I remember talking to our coaches, and I thought there was a very good chance that I was going to get drafted after my junior year from talking to them and the scouts that would come around and come to the games. Got to know a few of them. So when I finished up my junior year and came back to Milton, I was sort of expecting to get a call, and when it didn't come, I was definitely a little bummed out. And it was kind of a blessing in disguise. My sister was sick that summer. She ended up passing away later that summer. And in hindsight, I would have been gone. I would have been, going through the minor leagues. So it's funny. I tell people things happen for a reason. And I was very fortunate in a weird way that I didn't get drafted that year. So I went back to Tennessee my senior year, and put up a solid year again, and didn't really know what to expect. And I was home. I think it was the second day of the draft. I think they did the first. It was 50 rounds back then, so I went in the 20th round. So I believe it was early on the second or third day. My next door neighbor came into my kitchen. I had just finished up playing golf, and he came in and he told me that I got drafted. He was following the ticker next door on his computer. My younger brother's good friend. So that was that. The next day, the scout from the Astros came over. I signed, and a day later, I was on a plane to Florida.
Wow. Sorry to hear about your sister. I didn't know about that story. How did that kind of change your perspective?
Yeah, that was Caitlin was my older sister. And like I said, we were very close. And not to get emotional about it, but it was just one of those things. I'm older. I look back now, and as a kid, I felt like my world was ending because all I wanted was to get drafted. And I remember we got to spend pretty much every day together through that summer when she was sick at the end. So it was the best thing that ever happened to me.
Yeah. So yeah, you said day 2 you got drafted, and then where do you report after that? Like, what was that process like?
Yeah, I went down to Kissimmee, Florida. Someone picked me up in a van, and now I was one of 200 kids at the spring training complex. Went down there, went through physicals, did all the testing, and then they shipped me up to Troy, Schenectady, the Tri-City area. Yeah. And it was great. My first assignment was in the New York Penn League, playing for the Tri-City Valley Cats. So again, kind of the stars aligned. I was 3 hours away from home. So going through that first summer, it was great. My dad could shoot out. He came to pretty much every game. He'd drive 3 hours out after work and drive back and get home at 1 a.m. and do it again the next day. So having that support system as you're trying to figure out what this new experience is all about was great. He was someone I leaned on my entire career as more of a dad and a psychologist at the same time.
Yeah. Was he a baseball player?
He wasn't. He was a basketball player.
Oh, okay.
I think I think his dad, my grandfather was loved baseball. So that's maybe where I got the love of the game from.
Yeah. And you had a pretty good ascent through the minors. You were the MVP of your AAA Pacific Coast League. If you could put yourself back in that headspace, I guess, that mindset, you must have, at that point when you're kind of ascending through the minors, you must have been like, hey, I'm going to be, a Major League Baseball player. I'm going to be an all-star. What did you think your career would look like?
Yeah, I didn't really know. I was just at that point, and it's funny when you talk to guys, once you get drafted, there's this sense that you've already made it because the big leagues is so far away and such a dream. And when I had a good first year in New York in the New York Penn League. And then I actually made every single step along the way. So it didn't get real until I was, got called up from AA to AAA. Once I settled in there after struggling early, I got my feet wet, and, you kind of look around and you start to say, okay, maybe this is a real possibility. Got invited to big league camp. I forget what year it was, maybe 2014. And where you're surrounding yourself and rubbing elbows with Jose Altuve, Carlos Correa, Dallas Keuchel, all of these guys, and you're sharing a field with them, taking infield, outfield with them. It becomes a little more real, and you realize you're not that far away. So that's when the pressure kicks in, and beforehand when you're coming up through A ball and stuff, it's it feels a little more like college, to be honest. And then things really heat up when you're one phone call away, as they say.
Yeah. How will you remember your big league career? Like, any highlights that you think back on, or how do you feel about it on the whole?
Yeah, it was obviously a dream come true. I've played with so many great players that super talented, and for whatever reason never got to get that one game, that first hit. So feel very fortunate that I was able to crack through and kind of label myself as a big leaguer. But it was a short career. I was sandwiched in between, right in front of Alex Bregman, who was going to come up, and obviously he was going to be pegged as the guy. So looking back, I always had that feeling that it was going to be quick, which it was, but again, no one can take that away from me. And I feel like I earned it, especially being with an organization that was, at the top of the league. And it was awesome. I'll never forget my first hit. That's gotta be the best memory.
Yeah. Hey, Alex Bregman still going strong. Hopefully this season too, but all right. Well, I know you guys, so you're not taking a spring trip, I guess, with St. Sebastian. We talked last week and you said you guys don't do that. And, all these coaches, you hear like, oh, that's where we really established the camaraderie of the team and established our culture. And I guess we got to be careful because our audience has a lot of prep school coaches, but are those trips overrated, do you think? Or are you dying to kind of take one too?
No, yeah. I mean, playing baseball in Florida is awesome. I mean, we're going to be outside on the turf, and it's going to be 45 degrees. So, I think they're great. It's something that we may put into the works. There's a lot more that goes into it than just deciding on it one day. Hey, we're going to head to Florida with 40 guys. So maybe something we get to down the line, but I think for the teams that do it, it's awesome. And it's kind of, for us, we're obviously not doing it, but we have the 2 turf fields out here, and you know what I mean? We're going to get after it up here, and it just is what it is. But for those teams that do it, I think, they're very lucky. They're playing in warm weather, and get out there, you get to practice multiple times a day, and then scrimmage and stuff like that. So last year it worked, obviously without going on the trip. So maybe we can use that as motivation that, we don't need to do it this year. But no, I love, obviously I spent spring trainings down in Florida, and there's no better place to be, in March than playing ball down there.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we get some 60 degrees days up here,
nice.
In March. That'd be nice. Netting Professionals is proud to be the official netting partner of the Cape Cod League and the New England Collegiate Baseball League. Netting Professionals is in the sports business of improving athletic programs one facility at a time. Netting Professionals designs, fabricates, and installs custom netting, wall padding, windscreen, batting practice equipment, and much more for high schools, colleges, commercial facilities, and stadiums throughout the United States while providing high-quality products and great service to numerous baseball programs throughout the New England area. To learn more and to speak to a netting professionals representative today, visit them at nettingpros.com. Remember, when it comes to netting, it's netting professionals.
Are you serious about playing your sport in college? Do you need a flexible education that allows you to maintain your practice and competition schedules while also preparing you to succeed at the next level? You should check out the University of Nebraska High School. UNHS is accredited and offers more than 100 online courses, including NCAA-approved courses to protect your academic eligibility. Students could earn a UNHS diploma or take a single course for transfer credit. Courses are college prep, self-paced, and available 24/7, 365. Enroll anytime and take up to a year to complete a course. Visit highschool.nebraska.edu today.
Well, I'm going to introduce you to our producer, David Yaz, and we're going to do our 3 up, 3 down segment to conclude the podcast.
Sounds good.
Yes, we return to the pomp, the circumstance, the pageantry, the tradition of 3 up, 3 down.
3 up, 3 down.
This edition of 3 Up, 3 Down is the potential rule changes to Major League Baseball. Some real, some I've just pulled completely out of my you-know-where. It's spring training, and it's always a time to talk about potential rule changes. The most obvious one, let's take that one first, and that's the robot umpires. Of course, the MLB experimenting in spring training with the process whereby batters or pitchers can challenge a ball or a strike and go to the robot, and it's either overruled or confirmed. It's limited use. Coach, let's start with you. What are your thoughts on this potential major change to ball and strike calls?
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm old school. I think I don't really like it. I think part of the game that makes it baseball so different is that there is human error involved. I'm sure a lot of people won't agree with that, but you know, I think it's going to happen in a big spot. You're going to see it this year, and it might be a bases loaded, and the guy puts one right on the black, and they go to the review, and it's reversed, and it's gonna rattle some people.
And that won't necessarily sit well with you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not playing, so I mean, it doesn't really matter to me. But I think if the pitcher, he's going to be 2 steps off the mound thinking he has a strikeout, and he's going to come back out there, and next pitch it's going to end up in the seats. So it's going to bring some excitement to the game, that's for sure. I think the average fan will love it if it goes their way, but it definitely adds a new element. But I've been on both sides of it. I've taken a fastball right down the middle. I remember I was in Japan, and Ryan Brazier was actually pitching, and he struck me out 100%. And the umpire missed it, called it a ball. The next pitch I hit for a double in the gap, and we went up 1 and held on for a win against the Hiroshima Carp. It was a strikeout. There was no doubt about it.
Now we see why you just favor the robot rule.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, it's going to go both ways. So, but it'll bring definitely some excitement to the game.
Dan, your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm usually 100% in favor of just getting the call right. But I do love the way that baseball has been sped up a little bit in the last couple. Like, I didn't mind. I wasn't one of these people that complained about, this Red Sox-Yankees game took 4 hours because I love baseball. But I do think it did bring some new fans, or maybe old fans coming back to baseball, that now all of a sudden it's a 2.5 hour game. You get into Fenway, you're out of there by 9:30, you're home by 10:30. So I do like the idea of like keeping it moving. So, but if it is the limited, like maybe you get 2 challenges and you wait for a called third strike or something like that. I do also like the entertainment value of managers and arguing with umpires and getting ejected. I think fans in general like that. You always get a rise out of the fans in the stadium when, like, all of a sudden the coach throws the hat down and they're like, oh, he's going to get kicked out. Here we go. So I do like that. So I say probably keep the robots out of the robot challenge out of the game.
The robots are coming, guys. We have to bow down to them now and make friends with them because they're going to destroy us. Yeah. I think it would be funny if the umpire took out his phone and asked ChatGPT if that was a strike or not. That's one way to do it. All right, good answers on that one. Question number 2. Does baseball need an anti-taunting rule as they have in the NFL and maybe the NBA as well? And I bring this up because you've probably seen the footage of Colorado Rockies pitcher Jeffrey Yan celebrating like he's on Dancing with the Stars after every time he strikes somebody out, going into what looks like a near split or a breakdancing move or something. Does baseball need to employ an anti-taunting rule? And if not, what do you think of Jeffrey Yan's celebrations? Dan, why don't you take this one first?
I'm in favor of letting the baseball players police the game themselves. So if a guy's doing too much taunting, a lot of guys will respond with a hit by pitch in the next inning or something like that, which I'm in favor of. I like the
rough justice.
Yeah. I'm okay with like the bat flip and all that. So I don't know where you draw the line on the taunting. So I just let the players police it.
Interesting. Coach, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's exciting when the players show emotion. I think there's maybe a line where it gets too much, but I mean, if you've ever watched the Dominican Winter League game, you can see how much those guys how excited they get. I think it's fun. I think for younger kids to get them excited about baseball. I mean, so many other sports are the players show a ton of emotion. Basketball after a slam dunk and football after a big touchdown. I think it's good for baseball. And it's personality, right? It's different. There are going to be guys that maybe on the inside are super pumped up. They just hit a big home run and they put their head down and run around the bases. I'm all for the guy with the bat flip and the big strikeout. I'm all for pitchers showing emotion. I think it's great. I think the fans love it. And I think your teammates love it too. So I'm all for it. A little emotion.
Well, seeing the influence of the Savannah Bananas on all of baseball, perhaps in their showmanship and flair. I did see a Dominican game clip, which maybe you guys saw too, where a player hit a home run, threw his bat about 100 feet in the air, and then took about a half hour to get around the bases. Good stuff. Question number 3 and final question, 3 up, 3 down. Should Major League Baseball employ a midseason tournament inspired by the Four Nations face-off that the NHL just staged, which was a tremendous success? Instead of the All-Star game, could the MLB have a game? Perhaps America versus the world? Who knows? Coach, your thoughts on that one?
I think it'll be great. I think, the World Baseball Classic, anything they can do to break up the monotony of the 162 games is great for the fans. No doubt about it. I think players love playing for their country. It's a nice break away from them. Like I said, the season's so long. So I'm all for any of that stuff.
Dan, your thoughts?
I just think the baseball owners would probably not be psyched about, a big in-season tournament where, the guys that they're paying all that money to are risking injury, because injuries are a little bit more prevalent, especially with pitchers in baseball. But as a fan, yeah, I'd love to see it. I'd love to see, U.S. versus Dominican Republic or something like that in the middle to spice it up. They need to do something because the All-Star game has gotten pretty stale.
Well, tremendous job, both of you, on 3 up, 3 down. To salute you, Coach, you can't see me, but I am flipping my bat in the air and doing a split. Right, Dan?
Nice.
Anyway.
That's right.
And back to you, Dan, to wrap things up.
Okay. Thanks to Coach Duffy for joining us on the Base Path Podcast. The Base Path Podcast is a Siemens Media production. Thanks to our producer, David Yaz. Subscribe to the podcast anywhere you get your preferred platforms.